So today we're going to dive into a really fascinating public health paradox coming out of India. It's a story about a relentless virus, soaring infection numbers, but a surprisingly low death rate. How is that even possible? Let's break down the paradox of dengue in India. Let's start with a number. In 2023, India officially reported almost 290,000 cases of dengue. And that's not just a statistic, that is a massive, massive number. It shows that this disease isn't some isolated problem in a few big cities anymore. We're seeing it spread into smaller towns, even rural areas. It's a nationwide challenge that just keeps coming back, year after year. But here's the twist. For all those cases, the case fatality rate, the percentage of people with the disease who actually die from it, was less than 0.2%. That's incredibly low. And this isn't some lucky fluke from last year. India's managed to keep this rate super low for several years now, even while the total number of infections has been climbing. So that's the big question, right? Cases are absolutely soaring, but somehow more lives are being saved. How? Well, the answer seems to be a two-pronged attack. Really understanding the virus, and then fighting back with some clever prediction and good old-fashioned prevention. Okay, so first things first, we gotta understand the enemy. And dengue, well, it's not just one simple virus. It's more like a shapeshifter with 4 different faces. And this complexity is the key to why it's so dangerous, but also, believe it or not, it's the key to how they're fighting it. All right, so here's the culprit, the dengue virus. It gets around thanks to the female Aedes mosquito. And this isn't some swamp mosquito we're talking about. This one's a daytime feeder that loves to breed in clean, stagnant water. The kind of stuff you might find right around your own home. And just one bite, that's all it takes. Now, this is a really important word to get, serotypes. The easiest way to think about them is like 4 different flavors of the dengue virus. They're all dengue, sure, but your immune system sees each one as a totally separate challenge. And that distinction, well, it changes everything. So get this. Your first time getting dengue is usually pretty mild. And the good news is you get lifelong immunity. But here's the catch. It's only to that one specific serotype you caught. Now, if you get unlucky and get bitten again later by a different serotype, something really dangerous can happen. Those antibodies you made the first time, instead of fighting the new virus, they can actually, and accidentally, help it get into your cells and replicate like crazy. It's a phenomenon called antibody-dependent enhancement, or ADE for short. And that right there is what usually causes severe, life-threatening dengue. So you can see the problem. With 4 of these serotypes buzzing around, the risk of a really bad second infection is pretty high. So how is India's healthcare system actually handling this? The secret, it turns out, is to stop just reacting to the disease and start predicting what it's going to do inside a patient. Now, this quote really gets to the heart of it. You see, the big danger with severe dengue is something called thrombocytopenia. That's a fancy word for a huge drop in your blood platelets, which can lead to serious bleeding. In the past, this just created what doctors call a fear psychology. Everyone would panic, patients, families, even doctors, and it led to a lot of unnecessary platelet transfusions. But now, new tech has totally changed the game. And that game changer is called the immature platelet fraction, or IPF. It's something that modern blood analyzers can now measure as part of a routine test. Basically, it gives doctors a real-time peek inside your body's platelet factory, the bone marrow, to see how many brand new, young platelets are being turned out. And this is where the magic happens. By tracking the IPF, by seeing that number of young platelets going up, doctors can predict that your body is already starting to recover. And get this, they can see it 2 to 3 days before the total platelet count actually starts to rise. That kind of foresight is everything. It lets doctors confidently reassure patients and avoid risky, unnecessary transfusions. But look, even the most amazing hospital care is still a last line of defense. The real win against dengue, the true victory, starts way before anyone even feels sick. It starts right in our communities. It starts with prevention. This quote might sound simple, but it is literally the foundation of dengue control. Think about it. The Aedes mosquito doesn't travel very far. The mosquito that bites you was probably born right there in your own neighborhood. And what that means is that prevention is super local. It's a shared responsibility for all of us. So where are these mosquitoes hanging out? It's not just big swamps or ponds. We're talking about the little spots of clean water we all have around us. Things like water storage containers, desert coolers, those old tires lying around, even discarded coconut shells or the little plates under flower pots. Getting rid of these breeding grounds is hands down the most effective thing we can do to stop dengue in its tracks. So, at the end of the day, this isn't a fight any one person or group can win on their own. It absolutely has to be a united front. You've got individuals making sure their homes are clear, communities staying vigilant, and the government stepping in with resources and support. Everyone has to play their part. Okay, so the progress here is genuinely remarkable. But what's next? It's really important to remember that this isn't a war you win just once and it's over. It's a battle that has to be fought and won year after year. If you look at this, you can see a really clear pattern. Every year, it's the same story. Dengue cases start to creep up with the monsoon rains, and then they peak in those post-monsoon months, September, October, November. Now, this predictability is a bit of a double-edged sword, right? On one hand, you know the threat is coming back, but on the other, it means the health system can brace for impact and get ready for that surge. And this timeline, wow, it just puts everything into perspective. Back in a major outbreak in 1996, the fatality rate was over 3%. Fast forward to 2014, and it had dropped by a factor of 10. And today, it's consistently held below 0.2%. These aren't just numbers on a screen. This represents millions of lives that have been saved because of better science, smarter tech, and people working together. So let's circle all the way back to that paradox we started with. Now it makes sense, right? The cases are so high because the virus and the mosquitoes that carry it are, frankly, everywhere. But the fatalities are so low because that two-part strategy is actually working. You have proactive, tech-savvy clinical management saving the sickest patients, combined with widespread community prevention that's reducing the overall burden. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Dengue is just one of many diseases that are expected to spread as the world gets warmer. And what India's story shows us is that even when you're facing down overwhelming numbers, you can still win. A mix of smart, accessible technology and community-led prevention can turn a really deadly threat into something manageable. So the big question for all of us is, how do we take this lesson and apply it to the next big public health challenge that's just around the corner?